Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Aiken. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning, and I'm so glad that you joined us this morning. We're going to start out with some viewer comments. We're going to get into Iran a little bit, just some wild stories from over the weekend, some updates. We're going to talk about the still repercussions from primary day on Tuesday, and take a look at what, I guess, the future holds as the Democrat Socialists of America taking over the Democratic Party. We'll talk about that. But first, let's go to viewer comments. Rick writes in, does JD wear eyeliner? I swear he had on eyeliner at that Nixon facility when he was flapping his jaws. Whoa, Trump said Democrats are godless communists. Really? And we'll all live in squalor and die if the Democrats win the midterms. Trump needs to be committed. This is the worst thing he ever said. Thank you, Rick. Mark writes in this morning, says, good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Mark. It went well. This is in response to the Hornby Bicentennial. It went well. A lot of people, and look at this. I got a trophy. There you go. Congratulations, Mark. It looks good. What was the trophy for? Was a lot of Frankly Speaking fans voting for you, Mark? I do appreciate you sending in the picture. Congratulations. That sounded like it was quite an event. Okay. Iran and the United States have agreed to pause attacks and engage in talks this week after the U.S. launched strikes against multiple targets in Tehran, leading to Iran launching retaliatory strikes on Bahrain and Kuwait. A senior U.S. official confirmed to Axios that the two countries had made the agreement and planned to meet Tuesday in Qatar. The fighting between the two countries reportedly comes as a result of competing interpretations of a memorandum of understanding which the countries agreed to and signed. The different interpretations of the agreement between the two countries are related to the Strait of Hormuz. One senior U.S. official explained to the outlet that the U.S. had decided to stop all the kinetic activity. Immediately upon the signing of this MOU, the United States of America will begin the removal of its naval blockade and any disturbances or impediments against the Islamic Republic of Iran, and will fully end the naval blockade within 30 days. During this period, the traffic of vessels will be in proportion to the numbers of pre-war traffic being restored by the Islamic Republic of Iran. The United States of America further undertakes to remove its forces from the proximity of the Islamic Republic of Iran within 30 days after the final deal. So I guess that's where there was some confusion. Lebanon says that the U.S. brokered Israel deal will not be implemented. Got a fire truck going by. Lebanese parliamentary speaker Nabi Berri said the framework agreement with Israel will not pass and will not be implemented. Berri, who is an ally of the Iranian-backed Hezbollah terrorist organization, told Lebanon's Al-Khabar Daily that they would confront the deal in the Lebanese cabinet. He said the U.S. brokered framework, which allows for the Israeli Defense Forces to maintain a security zone in southern Lebanon until Hezbollah is removed from the area, is, quote, 10 times worse than the May 17, 1983 agreement. The closest Beirut and Jerusalem have come to a peace agreement. The Hezbollah ally said he was counting on the U.S.-Iranian negotiating track as the only framework capable of compelling the Jewish state to fulfill its obligations towards Lebanon. A senior Israeli official told JNS on Sunday that one achievement of U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio's framework agreement with Lebanon is that it trumps the memorandum of understanding with Iran reached through Pakistani mediation earlier this month. The agreement has called for immediate and permanent termination of military operations on all fronts, including in Lebanon. Now, the IDF did dismantle Hezbollah terror tunnel complex near the Israeli border. This happening early this morning, being reported around 3:30 a.m. The underground complex was constructed using technology and expertise provided by the Iranian terror regime. The operation in the Majal Zone area, some 5 miles north of the border with Israel, inside the IDF-controlled security zone, was carried out after Jerusalem informed the United States, according to Israel's prime minister. Israel updated the United States and the American representative in Lebanon in advance regarding the destruction of this infrastructure, said Benjamin Netanyahu. The tunnel, which was over 200 meters long, 650 feet, and more than 80 feet deep, contained hundreds of weapons and several launch silos intended to target the territory of the state of Israel and its citizens. Quote, IDF commanders and fighters will remain in the security zone in southern Lebanon and will continue to destroy terrorist infrastructure, remove threats to northern communities and safeguard the security of Israel's citizens. Now, according to reports, oh, hey, a comment from a viewer. Good morning. Well, good morning to you. Thank you, Jack. Iran must develop nuclear bombs to protect peace and calm, according to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Iran has no choice, they said, but to develop a nuclear bomb. The article titled, "No Choice But to Build the Atomic Bomb," claims that Iran must negotiate with its enemies from a position of strength, and was published by Iranian state news outlet Fars on Sunday. To achieve the peace and calm that Iran needs, it must absolutely reach nuclear deterrence to ensure that the rest of the issues can be resolved through negotiations. Thunders the piece before comparing Iran's situation with that to the U.S. and China in the 70s. Quote, America threatened China with nuclear attack twice, similar to Trump's recent nuclear threats against Iran. But when did Kissinger secretly meet with the Chinese and then negotiate? It was when China built the atomic bomb, the article notes. Nuclear deterrence means that you can reach a balance of power against Iran or against America and Israel, who possesses atomic bombs, not so that war does not happen, but so that the scope of conflict remains controllable, the article goes on. It also pledged it would not develop a nuclear weapon in the Memorandum of Understanding. It sounds like they're taking a different tack, but again, keep in mind this is the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. So saying that they must develop a nuclear bomb to protect, quote, peace and calm, according to the IRGC and their report in the media. Now, Stephen Collinson from CNN says that the new U.S.-Iran clashes revealed the fragility of truce and why it may work, underscoring that each side has a vital national interest in doing so. The accommodation follows days of clashes around the Strait of Hormuz and the Persian Gulf that were best understood as the foes wrestling to define their vague memorandum of understanding and to shape looming talks on critical issues, including Tehran's nuclear program. A Trump administration official said the two sides agreed to meet in Qatar on Tuesday and that they will stand down for now. There was no immediate comment from Iran. 4 days of Iranian attacks on merchant ships, U.S. reprisals, and Tehran's follow-on strikes on U.S. bases and Gulf allies risked an escalation into broader fighting and jeopardized global economic relief as oil begins to move through the strait. They also appear to have violated the terms of the Memorandum of Understanding that both sides signed. Iran was seeking to defend its new seam of leverage, the capacity to manage traffic through a waterway critical to the global economy. Its missile strikes on Gulf states and U.S. assets suggested an attempt to get a new post-war regional strategic paradigm. Anyway, so the idea is that this could ultimately work. I'm not going to go through the whole piece by Stephen Collinson. The key question is whether the confrontation over the strait continues to burn at a controllable level or whether they ignite and destroy the entire agreement and diplomatic process, plunging the region back into full-scale war. This would test Trump's clear preference not to prolong a conflict that has proved to be a huge political liability, but continued Iranian challenges would strain the tolerance of a president whose persona revolves around the implementation of power and strength globally. Ultimately, the return to diplomacy might validate Sullivan's prediction of an agonized and prolonged process. Even if a fragile peace is restored, there's unlikely to be an easy exit from the war for Trump. Also on the international front, this is remarkable. New Russian recruits, and this is about the war in Ukraine, new Russian recruits have a life expectancy of just 20 to 35 minutes in combat in Ukraine, showing how quickly Vladimir Putin's troops are falling victim to drone warfare. This is a report from Moscow. Once a soldier is signed on to fight, he can expect to live for just 10 days to 3 weeks, from arrival at the training ground to death in combat, according to historian Peter Frankopin. In an op-ed for Foreign Policy, citing Russian military bloggers, as the bloody conflict in Ukraine approaches the 4.5-year mark. Wow. Russian military brass are desperately seeking new soldiers for Putin's meat grinder. In late 2025, Russian officials claimed that they had recruited more than 420,000 new soldiers for year-long military contracts, but even state media admits those numbers are down some 30% this year. Russia still recruits roughly 800 to 1,000 new voluntary contract soldiers per day, with many of them rushed through just a handful of days of combat training. Average monthly casualties are now running at more than 30,000, with various Western sources putting the total Russian casualties at more than 1 million since the start of war in February of 2022. And this could be one of the reasons why Putin has become so paranoid. Comment from a viewer regarding Rick's comment. The truth hurts, doesn't it, Rick? Thank you very much. Russia, which has a population of about 143 million, is now suffering 8 casualties for every 1 lost by Ukraine. With the struggle to find fresh recruits, some are being offered sign-up bonuses of up to $80,000 and up to $140,000 in debt relief in order to encourage volunteers. For context, the average monthly salary in Russia is only around $1,000 a month, and far lower in many of the remote regions where Putin is recruiting soldiers. The extremely high casualty rate is blamed on the astonishing rise in military drones, which have become Ukraine's most effective weapons. Ukraine is also increasingly striking at targets deep inside Russia, including a huge attack on Moscow's largest oil refinery back in June, and that has reportedly put it out of action until next year. Ukrainian drones have reduced Russia's oil refining capacity by some 700,000 barrels per day. More than half of Russia's regions are now rationing fuel, an extraordinary state of affairs for the world's 3rd largest fuel provider. Russia is now spending more than half of its state budget on the military, with experts warning that Putin's economy is on the brink of collapse. One Russian blogger, a Ukraine war veteran, has accused Russian commanders of regularly torturing their own soldiers and warned that a mutiny could soon take place. In the video, he demanded a live on-air meeting with Putin and said that if not, the army will turn its weapons against the Kremlin. That's according to Fortune. But Frankopan, professor of global history at the University of Oxford, says the revolution was unlikely. Instead, Putin would feel he has less to lose by escalating the conflict. Beware the drowning man. The coming months will likely be dangerous outside and inside Russia as Putin tries desperately to stay afloat. We know that he has become paranoid in a situation where he is basically hiding out. We have some waves coming in, some comments coming in. Keep them coming in. We've got a lot more to cover. That was just kind of your international update to kick off the program. We've got a couple, I guess you could say, updates and things I think you'll find interesting before we dive into the Democrat Party. I see that Chuck Schumer was loudly booed at that Pride rally. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about AOC, the push towards socialism in the Democrat Party. That's not a shocking statement. They have said that to themselves. J.D. Vance was also on Bill Maher's program over the weekend. Well, I'll tell you a little bit about what we learned on that. So that's coming up here in just a little bit. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Hi, this is Tom Witzel, owner of Hesselson's in Amara Heights. At Hesselson's, we care about your well-being and overall health, whether it's relieving stress, muscle recovery, increasing circulation, or just revitalizing the body. Hesselson's now has 2 complete line of infrared and traditional rock saunas in our new and expanded showroom. Come in today and see why owning a sauna is a start of your new healthy lifestyle. Hesselson's is still locally and family-owned and operated in Amara Heights. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
I had to pack up all my things. I had to leave my home. And I never knew where I was going next. It felt like I never even had a say. But then you came along.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you. Learn how you can help at nationalcasagal.org.
Hi, I'm meteorologist Brandon Weathers. A warm start to what will be a warm week. 89 today, mostly sunny, relatively light winds. Then overnight, we'll see mid-60s for low temperatures. Then for our Tuesday, this is where we have scattered showers and storms. Temperatures pushing into the 90s We'll see more of that heat this week with upper 90s possible Wednesday and Thursday, holding on to the heat as we head through 4th of July weekend, following a
The Frankly Speaking roof cam. Look at that beautiful view of historic Marcus Street. That view brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Thank you so much for joining us. Here's an update. We were talking about the cost of Bills tickets on Friday's broadcast with the new stadium and the awkwardness of Governor Hochul trying to start "Let's Go Buffalo" chant that fell flat, yes, absolutely, but on deaf ears. Well, the first Buffalo Bill to be inducted into the team's Wall of Fame will not be moving to the new Highmark Stadium. O.J. Simpson, who spent 9 seasons in Buffalo, setting several NFL records, and was the first running back in NFL history to top 2,000 rushing yards in a season, will not be included on any new displays in or outside the stadium. Pete Gelly, chief operating officer for the Bills, said, quote, "We have made an organizational decision that he is not a fit to display inside our new stadium and Family Circle. The Family Circle will be a year-round plaza outside the security entrance to the stadium where the 3 large bison statues will go. Plaques honoring Bills greats will also be part of it." Simpson, who died in 2024, was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1985, but his legacy was forever changed. Of course, you know about the June 1994 knife slaying of his ex-wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and her friend, Ronald Goldman. We know about his history, but O.J. Simpson will not be included at the new Highmark Stadium. Okay, here's one. We've been having some Freaky Friday-type stories, but today on Monday, politicians and experts claim that there's a long unheard secret tape of a, quote, invasion of Washington UFO briefing, and they say the public could hear it very soon. A tape recording a 1952 conversation between Air Force officials and scientists on unidentified flying objects is soon to be released, Representative Eric Burleson said. While the recording is now supposedly in the possession of MIT's Lincoln Laboratory, the push from the cosmically minded congressman has guaranteed that it will be revealed to the public. UFO transparency advocates applauded Burleson for confirming the existence of the recording, saying that he's a dogged ally in the pursuit for greater openness from the government about unidentified aerial phenomena. That's kind of the new fancy way of saying it. He stopped asking politely. He knows where certain files are. He's demanding answers, said Jordan Flowers from the Disclosure Foundation. Continuing here, Flowers told News Nation that he thinks the tapes record a long rumored but never before heard discussion about a series of UFO sightings that shook Washington, D.C. in the summer of 1952. That July, a slew of UFOs were spotted by eyewitnesses, including pilots, in the air around D.C., providing fodder for wild speculation as to what was hovering above the nation's capital. People speculated they could be advanced communist technology from the Soviet Union or even little green men in flying saucers. But the Air Force eventually shot down the conjecture, saying in a press conference at the end of the month that the weather was to blame for the sightings. But UFO transparency advocates say that the tape's release is a big one for those who want the government to be more transparent with its citizens about what's really out there. Flowers saying the gloves are coming off in terms of pushing for transparency and knowing where these things are and pulling them out of the right structures. Oh, here's something. As we get ready to celebrate America 250, I'd love to hear your plans, what you've got on the docket. But I thought, because we've mentioned this before and it's always got a good response, so I wanted to pass this along to you from Fox News. 5 years after the death, it's unbelievable, of conservative radio host Rush Limbaugh, his message about the country is being highlighted ahead of America's 250th anniversary. Speaking on Hannity's show, Limbaugh's widow, Catherine Adams Limbaugh, discussed the radio icon's enduring impact and announced the official relaunch of a project meant to give young Americans access to patriotic history. Limbaugh saying, I know that if he were here right now, he'd be saying it's never time to panic. Rush loved this country with all of his heart. He loved our founding. And that's really what he wanted young people to know all about, why our country is so incredibly miraculous. Rush Limbaugh, a Presidential Medal of Freedom recipient who died in February of 2021, was widely known for the advocacy of the U.S. Constitution. Now, his best-selling children's book series, The Incredible Adventures of Rush Revere, is returning to teach a new generation of children about America's founding. I didn't realize they had stopped publishing those. I thought there was more even after he passed, but apparently not. Catherine Limbaugh said, Rush saw a problem throughout the country where accurate, patriotic American history was not being taught. So he set out on a mission to write these books so that young people could really experience our history. It was important to him that he made accurate, patriotic American history fun and engaging so that young people could be so proud of their country. Catherine Limbaugh said the series, which centers on a time-traveling history teacher, is being relaunched to celebrate the country's historic milestone. Proceeds from the book will go towards supporting the families of America's military heroes. We're writing these books now in particular to honor Rush in honor of the 250th birthday of the most miraculous country on earth and also in support of the Marine Corps Law Enforcement Foundation. Proceeds from the relaunch of the book series will be benefiting the Marine Corps Law Enforcement Foundation, which we love dearly as we love our United States military. Limbaugh, who served as the CEO of Rush Limbaugh's Legacy, also announced the relaunch on X, posting in honor of Rush and in celebration of 250th birthday of the country, the very popular adventure of Rush Revere series, Time Travel Adventures with Exceptional Americans, is back. Proceeds will benefit, as I mentioned, the Marine Corps Law Enforcement Foundation, supporting the families of fallen heroes, available as stores nationwide. And to kind of tie in with that, there was a piece as we look at America's 250, and it was by, who was it by? I should have this in better order. There's so many. There's going to be so many of this idea of the media, especially at a time when we're celebrating America 250 and this rise of socialism. But Lindsay Cormick says, as America approaches its 250th birthday, we're about to hear a lot about the founders. Schools and sites of civic care will revisit the names and lives of George Washington, James Madison, Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, and more. There'll be lessons about the extraordinary risks the founders, as they mutually pledge to each other, our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor at the end of the Declaration. We'll celebrate the Revolution, reference the founding documents, claim the ideals as noble, gather family and friends for food and fireworks, and we should. But if looking to honor the past is all we do on July 4th, 2026, we will miss out on a big opportunity to think about America in a way stands to make it a better country and a more perfect union. The founders didn't call themselves founders. It wasn't until President Warren G. Harding spoke the phrase founding fathers in 1916 that we even had that term. Prior to that, each set of political leaders paid tribute to their forefathers for moving America toward something new and better. But founder works for the modern era as we cast the nation as some sort of grand startup. Yet at 250 years in, it's time for an updated notion of who ought to take on the work of making America what it is. America isn't something that was found once and finished. It's a continual collective act of experimenting and finding. It's something that must be built and rebuilt by every generation. We, the people alive at this very moment, must take up the call of being the founders of today. I spend much of my time talking to middle schoolers, high school students, and college graduates about politics and government. And I often start with a simple exercise. I ask them what they've heard about the founders. They can usually tell me a few things. They'll give a few names. They'll tell me they were all men, all landowners, and a good number of them participated in slavery. If I'm lucky, they'll have a few quotes or lines from the Declaration of Independence. We then go through about half an hour of thinking about what political participation looks like for young people today. Then I end by asking them a question that they typically don't hear in civics lessons. What kind of founders are you? At first they hesitate. That question doesn't fit with how they've been taught to think about American history. To them, founders are people in textbooks who are distant, exceptional, and long gone. But I think this approach misses out on an opportunity for us to reinvigorate what it is to learn about and care about this country. If we treat founding as something that only happened in 1776, we turn what could be an ongoing effort of love of country into historical spectatorship. Couple that with endless talks about how broken everything of today feels, like our politics, institutions, and the tone of our national conversation, it can be easy to feel like American government is something happening to us, not something that belongs to us. The founders of 1776 understood something we sometimes forget. The system that they were building would only be as strong as the people inside it, because self-government only works if we, the people, understand it and take responsibility for pushing it along. That's why the 250th anniversary shouldn't just be a celebration of what happened back then. It should be an invitation to see ourselves as part of the ongoing work of founding, because that work isn't finished and never will be. And if we are still interested in pursuing life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, as I hope most of us are, when marking 250 years of American independence, it's worth considering not just what the founders did, but what we're going to do next, and what kind of founders we are willing to be. That's Lindsay Cormick, an associate professor of political science at Stevens Institute of Technology, and author of How to Raise a Citizen and Why It's Up to You to Do It. All right. That was just a tie-in. All right, I see we have some comments coming in. Keep them coming in. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
Looking for a meaningful day trip close to home? Visit the historic Elmira Prison Camp, one of the most significant Civil War sites in the North. Walk the grounds, stand where history happened, discover powerful stories of courage, sacrifice, and survival that shaped our nation. Whether you're a history enthusiast, a family looking to learn together, or simply exploring the Finger Lakes region, we offer an experience you won't forget. Plan your visit today at elmiracivilwar.org. Preserve, discover, remember.
Say is a veteran. He was a combat medic in the Army.
I did tours in Korea, Germany, and Bosnia before I got injured.
There's been a lot of wear and tear on his body.
My knees are bone on bone from doing all those jumps and lugging my backpack and all that gear around. I was also exposed to toxins.
When Yusuf got out of the military, he needed help getting his disability benefits.
Luckily, DAV came to the rescue. They fought for me the same way that I fought for my country.
Every year, DAV provides life-changing support to more than 1 million veterans like Yusuf, helping them get the benefits they've earned so they can achieve victories, great and small.
Now Yusuf is paying it forward. DAV has been instrumental in helping him start 2 healthcare technology companies that are working to help veterans everywhere.
My victory is never giving up and finding more ways to serve.
He's pretty amazing.
Support more victories for veterans. Go to
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Ken writes in and says, I think it's disgusting that 9 states didn't join in on the Great American State Fair. If the legacy media and Democrats don't like this country, why don't they leave and enjoy life in the country of their choosing? I would gladly pay more in taxes to help them with some seed money and airfare. Thank you, Ken. I do appreciate that. I do think it's sick. It is disgusting that the states didn't join in the Great American State Fair. Was that the final number, 9? I knew that there was quite a few. Hey, I thought this was kind of interesting. Yesterday, Mel Brooks celebrated 100 years, turned 100 years old. Well, the American Film Institute proclaimed Blazing Saddles as the funniest film of all time. This was announced yesterday. This is an honorary reorganization of the Institute's signature AFI's 100 Years, 100 Laughs list, advancing Blazing Saddles from its long-held place at number 6 to the number 1 spot, all in respect for the gifts given the world by Brooks, the AFI Life Achievement Award honoree, who has long said that his film is far funnier than Some Like It Hot. So Brooks is the only filmmaker with 3 films in the top 15, Blazing Saddles, The Producers, and Young Frankenstein. There you go. Your thoughts on Blazing Saddles being labeled the funniest film of all time by the American Film Institute. Okay, Interior Secretary Doug Burgum vowed full prosecution for vandals who allegedly slashed a 350-foot-long gash into the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool and defaced the area with a slew of anti-Trump graffiti. Quote, when people are attacking it, the reflecting pool, it is like an attack on our country. These are our most sacred monuments, and they, the perpetrators, are going to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. 7 arrests have been made, issued multiple citations, and filed 18 police reports in connection with the vandalism. According to Burgum, the damage extended roughly 350 feet long along the pool's industrial rubber liner, which he said investigators believe was cut with a box cutter. Images show some of the anti-Trump markings the vandals left behind, including 8647, interpreted by many as a call to violence or a call to remove the president. Burgum said the reflecting pool is part of the 1922 Lincoln Memorial. When people are using box cutters to do vandalism on this thing, it's the same as if they were throwing paint on Lincoln's statue in the eyes of the law. President Donald Trump addressed the vandalism Friday, saying the newly restored reflecting pool had been deliberately targeted. Quote, they ripped a scar 350 feet long through the side of the reflecting pool. These are the people we're dealing with. These are the people that want to destroy our country. Burgum said the vandalism came despite a concerted effort by the Trump administration to restore and beautify the nation's capital ahead of the 250th anniversary. He said more than 50 parks and circles have been restored, 48 monuments repaired, and 22 fountains returned to service, and roughly 1,700 lights fixed throughout the National Mall. Fencing now surrounds the reflecting pool amid an investigation into the damage. Burgum said the fence was installed in part to protect the pool and in preparation of the July 4th festivities, which will include fireworks on either side of the monument. So that's an update from last week. All right, so now you have a scenario, and we talked about the primaries a lot last week. You have a scenario now where the left is turning on the left. Some people, and I thought Melissa Del Rosa, who was the chief of staff for former Governor Andrew Cuomo, put it quite perfectly when she said the DSA are parasites. What her concept was, or her thought on it, is that you can't win by yourself. If you're on the line as a Democrat Socialist of America, you're not going to win. So they become a parasite and are feeding off the Democrat Party and trying to take over the Democrat Party. We have numerous instances that we're going to be telling you about. But what's interesting is if you're not this extreme far left, and Governor Hochul's dealing with this a little bit right now, they will attack you, they will boo you, they will go after you. Governor Hochul now concerned with what that will look like, where people are demanding her that she tax the rich because they believe they're in the catbird seat. Now, if you look at it, it was something like 7%. I've heard some different numbers, but 7% of registered voters voted in the primary, so it wasn't necessarily a huge crowd supporting the socialism, but it was enough. It's the way our system works. It's like Hillary Clinton complained about the Electoral College, but that's how you run for president. In this case, if they're in these far left districts, so if they won the primary, they're essentially already the congressperson. Well, California State Senator Scott Wiener, Democrat from San Francisco, said he was forced to leave San Francisco's Trans March at Dolores Park on Friday after demonstrators confronted him over Israel and Gaza. It's a viral episode that unfolded as Pride weekend began. The video showed several people surrounding Wiener as he walked through the park with multiple hecklers shouting profanity-laced messages. We blanking hate you. The video, someone's yelling at him, I think your policy on the genocide is terrible. I think you do not belong here. As Wiener walked away, the commentator continued to accuse him of betraying the LGBTQ community because of his stance on Israel and Gaza. You've been terrible on Gaza. You do not belong here anymore, Scott, and it breaks my blanking heart. It breaks my heart that someone who wrote good legislation is so blanking terrible for Gaza. Another person in the crowd accused Wiener of forfeiting his place in the LGBTQ community because of his support for Israel. Wow. It's not even a marbling of anti-Semitism, as Van Jones called it in the Democrat Party. It seems to be the standard now. Wiener said that he had attended the Trans March every year since the first march in 2004 and was walking through Dolores Park to attend a trans-led Pride Shabbat service when the confrontation unfolded, saying, quote, "As I walked through Dolores Park to participate in a trans-led Pride Shabbat service in connection with the Trans March, a group of people began screaming at me, ran up to me, surrounded me, and began harassing me, both verbally and physically, including physical contact. They made statements about my Israel handlers, among many other inaccurate, extreme, and vile statements. They were so physically and verbally aggressive that it was impossible for me to safely remain in the park." Weiner said the incident marked the first time in 22 years that he did not participate in the Trans March, which began in 2004 and has become one of the largest transgender gatherings in the world. Representative Kevin Mullen said the confrontation went beyond the Bay Area's tradition of political protest. Here in the Bay Area, we have a long and proud history of heated protest and passionate disagreement. Last night was not that. There is simply no place for hate speech, harassment, and violence in our politics or anywhere. No matter your belief, no one should be threatened or intimidated for simply showing up for their communities. Elected officials and candidates for office do not lose their right to basic human decency. The joint statement said Weiner had spent 16 years in public service in San Francisco and had been a fearless champion for LGBTQ Californians. San Francisco Mayor Daniel Lurie condemned the confrontation and described the language directed at Weiner as anti-Semitic. Quote, "As mayor, I can never accept hate directly at a member of our community. This language directed at Senator Weiner yesterday was targeted, hateful, and anti-Semitic." Now, Weiner finished first in California's top 2 primary in the San Francisco-based 11th Congressional District, the seat held by Nancy Pelosi. Weiner in San Francisco Supervisor Connie Chan advanced to the November general election, setting up an all-Democrat race to represent one of the party's highest-profile House districts. San Francisco police said 5 people were arrested in separate confrontations involving alleged vandalism, obstruction, and assault. Police said 2 officers suffered non-life-threatening injuries. All right, and now he was not the only one. Now, he was not endorsed by Nancy Pelosi, but it looks like he's the favorite. But now he is getting attacked for being pro-Israel, for being Jewish. Chuck Schumer. Oh, wow, I'm running late. We'll tell you about that when we return. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
After work, reduce your stroke risk. The initial treatment for AFib is often to stabilize your heart rate, but controlling your heart's rhythm may be just as important for long-term health. Ask your doctor how to get in rhythm and stay in rhythm. Learn more at stopafib.org.
Make this the summer event. Drive home a Ram 1500 and save over $6,400. Plus, get 2.9% for 72 months or 4.9% for 84. Or save $9,000 on a Ram 2500 Tradesman. And this comes with the best powertrain warranty in the business. 10 years, 100,000 miles. Or save over $7,400 on 3 remaining 25 Jeep Grand Cherokees. And just announced, go topless and save $7,400 on a 26 Jeep Wrangler. As always, get the highest trade-in values, period. Chilson Wilcox, selling cars a different way, the right way.
There have always been a few, ready to fight and win. Since 1775, these few have been Marines, and they come from across this land to defend the future of our nation. This year, our Corps celebrates 250 years, and Marines are proud to serve this country, each other, and all that is still to come for America.
Hi, I'm meteorologist Brandon. Weathers, a warm start to what will be a warm week. 89 today, mostly sunny, relatively light winds. Then overnight, we'll see mid-60s for low temperatures. Then for our Tuesday, this is where we have scattered showers and storms. Temperatures pushing into the 90s. We'll see more of that heat this week with upper 90s possible Wednesday and Thursday. Holding on to the heat as we head through 4th of July weekend. Falling.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Comment from a viewer. Good morning, Frank. Good morning. Just a thought regarding LGBTQ. I have no issues with people's sexuality as long as they don't ram it down my throat. If one wants to be gay, more power to them. But this weird Democrat politically driven LGBTQ thing, along with the representative flag, creeps me out. So as the saying goes, fight fire with fire. I have therefore conceived of a flag representing of the majority of the population. On one half of the flag is a picture of Mars. On the other half, a picture of Venus, representative of a heterosexual relationship, and can be carried with pride as it is presented at LGBTQ, etc. rallies and at schools to let kids know that if they are heterosexual, that's a completely normal thing. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Chuck Schumer was mercilessly, I always have trouble with that word, booed at the New York City Pride Parade. Viral video shows Chuck Schumer being booed while walking in the Pride Parade or the Pride March on Sunday. The U.S. Senate Minority Leader was marching at the event while waving a pride flag and talking into a bullhorn. Happy Pride, he kept telling the crowd. But the longtime New York political animal's goodwill was drowned out by a chorus of boos. Now, we know he is not very popular. That's why there's talks of AOC, which we'll talk about this in just a second. But AOC challenging him. He is not, just like him and Hakeem Jeffries. You have numerous reports of even elected officials, Democrats, saying it's time to get rid of Schumer and Jeffries. Now, that's not really fair to Jeffries. He's only been in that leadership position a couple of years, while Schumer's been there about 100. Chuck haters could be seen in the crowd giving the senators 2 thumbs down and frowning as he walked by, too. The hissing and jeering went on for nearly 20 seconds in at least one spot. The booing continued even as Schumer attempted to establish his long record supporting gay rights. Quote, "So I was the first senator to ever march in this parade, 1999, and I haven't missed one yet." The crowd uncaring as they continued to boo. But it wasn't all hate. A separate video from the parade also shows a crowd cheering for Schumer as he again touted his record supporting the LGBTQ community. All right. Now, Chuck Schumer could get on the AOC train if she opts for the White House instead of targeting his Senate seat. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer is enough of a political animal, that's twice he's been described as that he might end up backing Socialist Squad star Representative AOC Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez if, fueled by the success of far-left radicals in Tuesday's primaries, she decides to run for president, said insiders. That comes after a career of pragmatic legislating, even penning a 2007 book about winning back a middle-class majority. A longtime Democratic operative said Schumer's a smart enough person where if it is that time for AOC's White House run, he would probably be one of her biggest champions. The 75-year-old Schumer has hitched his wagon to local left-wingers before and outlasted former rival Hillary Clinton, who he endorsed for president back in 2013, declaring in 2016 to be Hillary's time. AOC, who's 36 years old, has backed off targeting fellow House Democratic incumbents. In 2024, she began paying $260,000 in yearly dues to the party's campaign fundraising arm, a nod to the establishment Democrats running the show. However, the socialist firebrand and her fellow comrades are gaining momentum, trying to move Democrats' far-left base from fringe to mainstream. I would say they're in the leadership position, essentially, that they're in the lead. And Mom Donnie's talking about running for president as well. We'll talk about that in just a second. She went from being an outsider to being an insider, said the operative. Kamala Harris invited AOC to speak at the Democratic National Convention, where AOC vouched that the party's presidential nominee was working tirelessly to secure a ceasefire in Gaza. The move brought a rebuke last week from Democrat Socialist of America honcho Kareem El-Rafi in The Nation, who demanded AOC apologize for telling a lie to the public by claiming the very people perpetrating a genocide were actually working tirelessly to stop it. Man, they've got their anger at Israel, anti-Semitism. One establishment Democrat aide assisted that after years of conversations, AOC has real respect for and perhaps even an affinity for Chuck Schumer. He is willing to listen to her, and that matters to her. AOC was coy this week when asked about running for Senate, telling a Fox News reporter, "I'm not going to be breaking any news here." After serving 45 years in Congress, including the last 27 years in the Senate, Schumer's clout and time on Capitol Hill is running out, predicted a Republican operative working midterm campaigns nationwide. If Schumer somehow survives Democrats' 2026 socialist takeover, AOC's 2028 challenge will finish the job and send him into retirement. Schumer declined to address his political future or a potential AOC presidential run, but he insisted Democrats would rally together to take back Capitol Hill and the White House, saying, "We need to look at the entire country. We have centrists making real gains in New Jersey, Iowa, and Virginia, and progressive energy here in New York City. At the end of the day, my sole focus is one thing: taking back the Senate and reversing the damage Donald Trump has done to the United States. So will AOC run for president? Well, Schumer, of course, will get behind her if that means she doesn't run against him. Actually, we have a couple things here about Mondani saying similar, that maybe he's going to run for president. Jeffries, what he had to say. See, Hakeem Jeffries is being criticized because he wants more moderate Democrats in there. So he didn't support the socialists. The socialists won. Then what did he do? What did he do? Days later, congratulating them. We'll talk about that in just a moment. But one other example of Democrats at various Pride events. A Texas Democrat on Friday defended radical leftist James Tellerico. Now, Tellerico is the Democrat nominee for Texas's Senate race. A lot of past statements that he made, very offensive, very outrageous. The Democrat nominee for the Lone Star State's land commissioner, Ben Flores, told the crowd at the Texas Democrat Convention in Corpus Christi, quote, "Next time they say that James is trans, we're all trans. When they say that James is a gay, tofu-eating vegan, we're all gay, tofu-eating vegans. And when they say James is going to, we'll say heck. Then we're all going to heck." What a weird endorsement. Tellerico, who's running against Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, has expressed his love for, quote, trans children, but apparently changed his website's references to the trans kids he claimed to love. During a May interview on the Alex Marlowe show, Paxton spoke about Tellerico, saying his views are so foreign that I would say he would have a hard time winning California, let alone Texas, once people realize what he's actually believing in and what he's actually said. When it came to climate change, Tellerico said it is now existential that we try to reduce our meat consumption and that we try to respect animals in all aspects of society. I am proud to say that our campaign has officially become a non-meat campaign. We are only buying vegan products from our local vegan businesses. The Democrat also claimed that God is non-binary and further described himself as a Christian who hates Christianity. Tellerico has referred to women as neighbors with a uterus on several occasions. All right, we got to take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
An albino baby buffalo was born.
Nearly 500 kilos of cocaine has been seized in a bus.
Day one of the National Glider Competition.
Give kids time. Just 5 minutes a day. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
Can you help me?
Mom, Dad, we're going out.
Thank you.
Oh, look, they're playing chess.
What you got there?
Will you help my mom?
She's real sick, huh? Hey, crew, I'll give the first move to anyone who signs up to be an organ donor. How do you do it?
Easy. Just go to organdonor.gov.
You heard them, organdonor.gov.
More donors means more hope. Sign up at Organ Donor.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. So after spending days fielding questions about the rise of the New York City Democrat Socialists, Hakeem Jeffries, the House Minority Leader, finally congratulated them on Saturday. Even the two who handily defeated incumbents Jeffries had backed and had endorsed. Congratulations to our newest members of the New York City congressional delegation. From public servants to union organizers to community activists, the path is different, but the work is the same. We must decisively address the affordability crisis and crush far-right extremism. Jeffries also applauded other Democrats who won their House primaries on Saturday, but his post about the New York City candidates was notable. 3 of 4 of them are Democrat Socialist of America candidates backed by Mayor Zohran Mamdani. Their wins on Tuesday fueled tensions between the party establishment and its left-wing faction and raised questions about Jeffries' political future. There's talks, and some leading Democrats have been saying that maybe it's time for his ouster, to not have him in a leadership position. There's been talks about that with Chuck Schumer for a while as well. In New York's 10th Congressional District, former City Comptroller Brad Lander defeated the Jeffries-endorsed Representative Dan Goldman. In the 13th District, Daraliza Avila Cavalier, or DAC, pulled off a stunning victory over Representative Adriana Espaillat, whom Jeffries also backed. State Assembly member Claire Valdez defeated Brooklyn Bureau President Antonio Renzno, who had the endorsement of outgoing Representative Valcrez in the 7th District. Jeffries is not particularly popular among the left, and they're saying if they do take over the House, it's going to be almost impossible for them to govern because of the extreme nature of the far-left candidates. But again, they have hijacked the Democrat Party. They are, Democrat Socialists of America, are the face of the Democrat Party. At Valdez's election night watch party, jubilant supporters booed and chanted, "You're next," when Jeffries appeared on the screen. Neither Cavalier nor Valdez has committed to backing Jeffries for House Speaker if Democrats win control of the chamber in November. In contrast to Lander, who has said he would. When asked if he would support Jeffries in an interview with NBC News on Wednesday, Cavalier said, "That's a conversation that I'll be having with my coalition, with my community, to make sure that we are coming to a decision about what is best for the people here in New York 13. Jeffries' comments about the trio have been measured since Tuesday's primary. This week, when asked on CNBC about the taunting chants, Jeffries pointed to President Trump. "I'm happy to talk about primary elections in one of the bluest cities in the country. And at the end of the day, listen, our focus is going to be in ending this national nightmare in this country that America is suffering. A reckless and costly war of choice has skyrocketed gas prices. The failure to lower cost was Donald Trump's promise that he would do, and a whole host of other challenges." So it took him almost a week to congratulate, probably looking, hoping to kind of heal that relationship so he can keep his job. Does not look good, though. There are a lot of, even some we would say more moderate, for lack of a better word, Democrats calling for his ouster, him and Chuck Schumer. We've got some more on this when we return. Stay with us, getting ready to wrap up hour number 1. Get your comments in.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Thousands of North Atlantic right whales used to swim along the east coast of the United States and Canada. Collisions with ships and entanglement in fishing gear are killing these magnificent animals every year. They could go extinct in your lifetime. But there's hope. If we act now, before it's too late, join Oceana to save North Atlantic right whales from extinction.
The Health Class Film Guy isn't the best person to talk to your kid about vaping.
Got a few minutes?
You are. Talk to your child about vaping today.
Hi, I'm meteorologist Brandon Weathers. A warm start to what will be a warm week. 89 today, mostly sunny, relatively light winds. Then overnight, we'll see mid-60s for low temperatures. Then for our Tuesday, this is where we have scattered showers and storms. Temperatures pushing into the 90s. We'll see more of that heat this week with upper 90s possible Wednesday and Thursday. Holding on to the heat as we head through 4th of July weekend, following a
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning, getting ready to wrap up our number one. Now, Bill Clinton, former president of the United States, expressed confidence in Democrats' prospects after 3 socialist candidates won key New York primaries, stating he believes the Democrat Party is, quote, in good shape. He told Fox News Digital, "I think we're in good shape for the fall." Clinton appeared unfazed by the results of the socialist winning, saying the former president had previously aligned himself with more moderate Democrats in New York politics. Last year, he endorsed former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo in the New York City Democratic mayoral primary over socialist Zohran Mamdani. While many Democrats have embraced a new wave of socialism and those candidates representing the ideology, many mainstream Democrats have cautioned against embracing socialism as the party's national brand and have defended capitalism. It's too late. This is where their party's headed. Fox News Digital also asked Clinton about the Iran situation, but the former president dodged the question, declining to answer. Clinton's refusal to comment comes as tensions surrounding Iran remain high as the U.S. and Iran work to navigate a recently announced fragile peace deal. All right, so, wow, that does it for hour number one. We're going to talk, so they're talking about AOC running for president. Well, Zohran Mamdani was asked over the weekend about changing the United States Constitution so that he could run for president. We'll tell you about that. We also have a couple things here about the party in general, what some of the leading prominent figures in the Democrat Party think about the push to socialism and what that means. We're also going to hear what Bruce Blakeman had to say about it. Bruce Blakeman running for governor here in New York State. We do have a couple of New York updates and a couple of America 250 updates. So you want to stay tuned. All right. Oh, by the way, on the show this week, we're working on some schedules to get some interviews, but on Wednesday we'll be talking with Sheriff Jim Allard, so don't miss that. I know, always a fan favorite. Sheriff Allard will be joining us on Wednesday, so you can get your questions in ahead of time on that. If you would like, I see some comments coming in. We'll read those when we return. So a little bit about Mamdani, a little bit about what kind of the talking heads of the Democrat Party, like the James Carville, the Bill Maher's, what they've had to say about this push towards socialism. As I mentioned, a couple things about New York and about America 250. What else do we have? Maybe a couple other things as well, if we have an opportunity to get to them. I feel like we are going to be very full on this morning's broadcast. But if you are new to the program, you can keep your comments and keep your waves coming into that number on the bottom of the screen, 607-358-3131. Already up to a pretty good wave count. So keep your comments coming in. We'll read those at the top of the hour. But right now, we need to take that short break. So in moments, we'll have hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, we will be right back after this quick commercial break.
You don't have time to go to the gym? The health club is not an option? Come to Hesselson today and see why swim spas and fitness systems can fit into anyone's yard and budget. 12-foot, 14-foot, 15-foot, 18-foot dual temperature hot tub and swim spas are all on display in Hesselson's indoor and outdoor showroom. Try before you buy. 0% interest-free financing options are available on every Hesselson swim spa. Swim and exercise year-round and start making every day better. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
I had to pack up all my things. I had to leave my home. And I never knew where I was going next. It felt like I never even had a say. But then you came along.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you. Learn how you can help at nationalcasagal.org.
Make this summer event. Drive home a Ram 1500 and save over $6,400. Plus, get 2.9% for 72 months or 4.9% for 84. Or save $9,000 on Ram 2500 Tradesman. And this comes with the best powertrain warranty in the business. 10 years, 100,000 miles. Or save over $7,400 on 3 remaining 25 Jeep Grand Cherokees. And just announced, go topless and save $7,400 on a 26 Jeep Wrangler. As always, get the highest trade-in values. Period. Chilson Wilcox. Selling cars a different way.
And we welcome you to hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio in the heart of the Gafford District. We're talking about kind of the repercussions, the consequences that will be coming from Tuesday's primary. I see, and Rick had mentioned this, I'm not sure when he texted in, probably the other day, but he had mentioned Donald Trump and what he said about the push to the far left of the Democrat Party, saying it's becoming a communist party. These are not social democrats. These are hardcore godless communists. They're godless communists. All communists are godless. They don't believe in God. This is the most serious threat to our country since its existence. So Margaret Brennan on CBS's Face the Nation asked Senator Tim Kaine about that statement that Donald Trump made. Senator Tim Kaine was the running mate with Hillary Clinton, if you recall. He said, Margaret, what the president said is just goofy word salad. Man, word salad's going to be thrown around too much. What the president said is just goofy word salad. I'm not an expert on New York House races. I'm an expert on Senate races. And we have got Senate candidates all over this country working to flip red seats blue by focusing on the president's mismanagement of the American economy. Families are suffering cost increases because of the chaotic tariffs, illegal war, and focus on goofy things like ballrooms, arches, and the reflecting pool. And in Virginia, at the House races, I've got 4 Democrat challengers running to flip red seats blue who are focused on that same kind of cost and affordability agenda, and that led us to have a landslide win in state races last fall. So I can't really explain, what's on the voters' mind in New York City congressional races, but I know that on what's on Virginia's mind, and I think I know what is on America's mind. Let's focus on the economy and bring costs down, not foolish wars and chaos. So he calls Trump, his statement, a goofy word salad. All right. Now, Mom Donnie laughed off the idea of changing the U.S. Constitution so that he can run for president when he's done with New York City. Mom Donnie told ABC News this week, no, I think the Constitution looks good the way it is. Under Article 2, Section 1 of the Constitution, only natural-born citizens 35 years and older can seek the presidency. Zohran Mamdani, 34 years old, was born in Uganda and emigrated to the U.S. around the age of 7. He became a naturalized citizen in 2018. He said, I'm very excited to focus on New York City, but thank you for reminding me of my upcoming mortality, referencing his 35th birthday. During the 2025 mayoral campaign, Mamdani repeatedly needled former Governor Andrew Cuomo, accusing him of setting his sights on higher offices. Despite claiming that he's not after the presidency, Mamdani was bullish on his role as a major power broker in the Democrat Party, saying, let them. When he snapped back when asked about Republicans trying to make him the poster child for Democrats, we don't have to ask ourselves what life looks like if a socialist wins. I won last November, and over the course of these last 6 months, what we've delivered. Last week, Mamdani scored huge wins with his endorsement. Those 3 have championed a far-left agenda, with Avalier Cavalier in particular having a history of bragging about wiping her dirty hands on the American flag, calling to abolish prisons and the border, blasting former President Joe Biden as a rapist, and more. Mamdani said, I think we are seeing hunger that is not just felt by New Yorkers, but frankly by Americans from coast to coast for a new kind of politics, one that puts working people at the heart of it. When pressed about Cavalier's wild positions, Mamdani contended that she had focused on the politics of life. The focus of her candidacy was about the struggle that working people are facing. Asked whether he wants prisons abolished, Mamdani replied, there are prisons. Safety is not something that's up for debate. Okay. Now, Democrat leaders have admitted, and experts have admitted, what fueled this socialist surge. And we're going to be talking about this quite a bit this morning. But Mayor Zohran Mamdani's socialist cronies, who swept last week's Democratic primaries, boasted about an affordability message. But critics say it was that anti-Israel hate that is fueling the party's swing to the left. We're seeing that, as I mentioned, what's his first name? Scott Wiener, in his race for Congress, being shouted at, being called names, being yelled at with anti-Semitic language. But State Democrat Party Jay Jacobs Admitted voters' feeling on Israel helped propel Mamdani's buddies to 3 House primary victories. Wow. What is it with this hatred of Jews by the Democrat Party? And they're saying that's what fueled this rise. We don't see them out in the streets protesting for the Iranian citizens. Both Hezbollah and Goldman back the Jewish state, which may have motivated young activist liberals with pro-Palestinian views have staunchly opposed Israel military action in Gaza. Yes, I do think the Israel-Palestine issue had an impact on the election, Jacob said. It hurts establishment Democrats. There are people who may have voted against Hezbollah and Goldman because of it. It was important to the activists who came out and voted. The pro-Palestinian, anti-Israel campaign was a, quote, more important issue for those who came out and voted. In low turnout primary elections, I saw only about 17%, there's the number, about 17% of party voters citywide participated. So that's why we talked about it on this program, why the primary is so important, why your vote matters even more. Look at that race, and I haven't got an update, but that race in Chemung for the 6th district legislator, a tie. 169 to 169. In this case, you had 17% of Democrats in New York City, of party voters, getting out and voting and making that decision for all the rest of the city. The National Civil Rights Group, the Anti-Defamation League, blasted the insurgency as riding a wave of anti-Semitic sentiment to wins in the Big Apple. On Tuesday night in New York City, a movement built on anti-Semitic rhetoric won 3 congressional primaries. The statement noted that as Mamdani moved through the jubilant crowd at a DSA victory party on the night of the primaries, attendees chanted from the river to the sea, the code viewed as a call to wipe out Israel. We're witnessing candidates succeed not in spite of their demonizing rhetoric against the Jewish community and the Jewish state, but because of it, said ADL. When leaders cheer slogans that dehumanize Jews, it does not stay at a victory party. It bleeds into schools, neighborhoods, daily life, putting Jewish families, children, and communities at risk. The Mamdani-backed House candidates were part of a push to the left of the party that came alongside wins by legislative candidates handpicked by the Democrat Socialists of America. Now, Cavalier, one of the winners, came under intense scrutiny during the campaign, but still defeated 5-term incumbent Hezbollah in a close contest in the 13th House District. She had attended an anti-Israel rally in Times Square one day after Hamas's horrific terrorist attack on Israel's October 7, 2023. At the rally, demonstrators torched the Israeli flag and slashed swastikas. Cavalier centered her platform on halting U.S. military aid to Israel and pushing for full divestment from the Jewish state. DSA candidate Valdez, who is now a state assembly member, won an open seat in Brooklyn Queens House District 7 by defeating Brooklyn Bureau President Anthony Reynoso. Meanwhile, Lander, who is Jewish and a former DSA member, claimed Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. He easily defeated 2-term incumbent Goldman in a landslide. So Democrat insiders admitting that it was this anti-Semitic rhetoric that put many of them over the edge. I think that tells you a lot about what that party looks like. Pollsters have noted a dramatic shift in the Democrat Party against Israel after the Gaza war. The voters who turned out were anti-Israel. The people who were fired up were anti-Israel, and there was no counter to that, said pollster Bradley Honan. A Gallup poll released in February found that more than half of Democrats in the U.S. are anti-Israel. More than half, folks. That's no longer a marbling. The first time a majority of members of a major political party had a negative opinion of the Jewish state. The question has been asked by the poll since 1989. Only 33% of Democrats surveyed by Gallup said they have a favorable view of Israel, while a whopping 60% view the Jewish state unfavorably and 4 had no opinion. Jacobs acknowledged that the support of Israel is a divisive issue within the party, but it also has become more so in the Republican Party. He said Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's conduct during the war in Gaza has galvanized the anti-Israel movement. Jacobs, who is pro-Israel, believes the criticism is warranted, but he also said this pro-Palestinian Israel haters are spreading falsehoods that need to be challenged. Saying Israel is committing genocide is wrong, it's war. He also said Israel is not an apartheid country, as critics claim, saying minority Arab residents have rights like other citizens. I can't remember if I read this comment from Mark. I apologize if I did. But Mark had sent in before the end of the last hour. I believe the Democrats, socialists, are bringing down the Democratic Party. I can't believe they will stand a chance at becoming a president. But on the other hand, It might be a feather in the cap for Republicans as the Democrat Party is split. Thank you very much. Comment from a different viewer. Hey, Frank Pete here. Well, hey, good morning. I would say that New York City can elect as many commies as they like, declare a rent holiday, confiscate and redistribute to their heart's content. But if they start exporting their loony ideas to Albany and making life for us up here more difficult, we ought to figure out how to cut off their access to upstate's water, power, and access to our landfills. That's a great idea. If they want to run their city that way, fine. But we don't have to be a part of it. I think that's a really good idea. Comment from a different viewer. My thoughts regarding the 17% minority turnout is that since I find it hard to believe that New York City, in spite of its Democrat leanings, would, once all the voters get out in the midterms, vote these communists into office. Well, yeah, 17% of Democrats. I mean, that's all it took. That's the problem, and that's why we kind of sound like a broken record here saying get out and vote, because the primary is such low turnout. But at the end of the day, when the smoke clears, that's the candidates now. And because they're in far left districts, they are most likely going to be the next congressperson. And they're saying that it's really this kind of big tent idea that did in the Democrat Party. We've got a couple of things on that, but Chris Murphy dodged the questions about Democrat socialist controversial remarks while pushing the party's big tent. The Connecticut Democrat said, all I am saying is that this party has to have a real contest of ideas, and I just don't think our defense of this has worked. I don't mind a contest of ideas, and I just don't know that we have had it to the extent the voters have been satisfied. It's no secret voters aren't super happy with establishment Democrats or establishment Republicans these days. I will say, though, what binds together, I think every Democrat candidate that is running, including the ones in New York, is that they are standing up to protect American democracy. I mean, I guess because Trump is a threat to democracy. The apparent dodge came after Murphy's insistence that the Democrat Party adopt a big tent approach and embrace a broader scope of voters, including traditional Democrats, Trump voters disillusioned with the country's direction, and those who lean further left. To be clear, Nobles asked Murphy, to be clear, Senator, that was an attack ad from a fellow Democrat. You talked about this bigger tent. If you're saying the Democrat Party needs a bigger tent, does that include someone who called a former Democrat president of the United States a rapist? Murphy then explained that he wasn't super familiar with that race. That's everybody's excuse. Murphy also appeared to dismiss the notion that the Democrat Party is developing an overwhelmingly socialist slant, pointing to Democrat governors Mickey Sherrill and Abigail Spanberger as an example of what he views as more moderate candidates. I think that it's actually a sign of a party that is alive and growing when there's been historically way too timid in taking on corporate power. I think our party should have bigger ideas. Bill Maher actually had J.D. Vance on his program this weekend. Bill Maher says he's identified the loopy patient zero among the extremist woke crowd. New York City congressional candidate Daraliza Avalar Cavalier, DAC. Maher torched Cavalier's radical positions such as abolishing prisons. She wants to abolish prisons, folks. The border and cops while speaking on Real Time, adding that she's emblematic of the far left flank of the Democrat Party that could put his typical Democrat vote in play in the future. Quote, there's one candidate. She will be a congresswoman from New York's 13th district, who the New York Times asked her if someone murders someone randomly, should they go to jail? Couldn't get her to say yes to that. She says no more police ever at all, ever. She says our veterans are war criminals. She said blank Kamala Harris and Joe Biden's a rapist. So there is a woke mind virus, and I think we found patient zero. Avila Cavalier prevailed, as you know. Maher spoke with GOP Vice President J.D. Vance and vented about the rise of the far left within the Democrat Party, saying, if this is where the Democrat Party is going, this obsession with Israel, with the Jew hating, they don't believe in capitalism, no prisons. If this is where they are going, my vote is in play. Every year I don't make my decision by who has an R or a D. I actually always come to the conclusion that the Democrat was probably better and voted for them. Maher has long considered himself a Democrat and more left-leaning on most issues, but he has grown increasingly frustrated with the woke and socialist left. But he also told Vance that President Trump's general denial that U.S. elections are fair is a deal breaker for him. He also, oh, wow, we're running late. Okay, keep those comments coming in. We got some great discussions going on. Keep your comments coming in. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Yeah, hello. I'm really not sure if this is what you all do, but I really don't have anywhere else to turn.
Hi. I don't even know why I'm calling right now. I'm sorry. My thoughts are going a mile a minute.
My kids are out of state. My buddies from the Army are all gone now. I'm really alone.
I left the service last year. My mom just passed away a few months ago. I miss so much time with her. I keep getting calls about the bills, and I'm trying to get a job, but I feel so stuck.
Okay, ma'am. I'm glad you called.
Okay, sir. Let's stay on the line and walk through some things.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm meteorologist Brandon. Weather's a warm start to what will be a warm week. 89 today, mostly sunny, relatively light winds. Then overnight, we'll see mid-60s for low temperatures. Then for our Tuesday, this is where we have scattered showers and storms. Temperatures pushing into the 90s. We'll see more of that heat this week with upper 90s possible Wednesday and Thursday. Holding on to the heat as we head through 4th of July weekend, falling a touch.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business, and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. Comment from a viewer: where is it Joe Biden is a rapist come from? Is it fact or fiction? I'm not sure. That's what that candidate said. She's still a candidate, but looks like she's going to be in Congress. I'm not sure where that comes from. I'm not sure what the statement was in reference to, but that's one of the lines that they point to with her as what she had said in the past. Now, Bill Maher told Vice President J.D. Vance that his vote is in play in the 2028 presidential election as he called out several high-ranking Democrats. Like, if this is where the Democrat Party is going, where this Democrat socialist, this obsession with Israel, with the Jew hating, they don't believe in capitalism, no prisons. If this is where they're going, my vote is in play. It's actually always has been. Every year, I don't make my decision by who has an R or D. I actually always come to the conclusion that the Democrat was probably better and voted for them. So it's either going to be you or Rubio, he said to J.D. Vance. Maher told Vance after joking about Trump's term limits. Vance joined Maher for the sit-down discussion where the pair tackled topics such as Iran's nuclear weapons, immigration, and the Trump administration. Maher praised Vance for appearing on the show after the vice president received a warm welcome from the audience and quipped, "I'm sure it's the only applause I will get." "I'm just glad you're talking to me, you know," Maher said. "I mean, I say it every time. The Republicans come here and they take their beating like a man. It's the people I vote for. They're the ones who won't talk to me. That's odd, isn't it?" I don't think anybody really takes a beating at the hands of Bill Maher, but okay. Vance questioned that there was a chance that Mamdani-backed Daraliza Avila Chevalier would make an appearance on the show anytime soon, would not make an appearance. Maher, who had comedian Larry Wilmore and Senators Raphael Warnock on Friday's show, said no, as he claimed that Mamdani, Harris, and AOC have refused to show up. "I can't get AOC. I can't get Mamdani. I couldn't get Kamala Harris. It took me 8 years to get Obama." I don't know if it's even, I don't even know why the vice president went there, but Vance said, if you don't make the final deal, this is with Iran, their nuclear program is still destroyed. They still are much weaker as a country. So my attitude is America wins either way. Both Vance and Rubio, former senators before elevating to their posts in the Trump administration, have been key figures for the 80-year-old commander-in-chief, with the vice president having traveled to Switzerland for high-stakes meetings with Iranian officials. Now, James Carville, we're just talking about this far-left push from the Democrats. Veteran Democrat strategist James Carville, as you know, someone that worked for Bill Clinton, and his podcast co-host, Al Hunt, lamented a recent primary winner in New York as part of the movement that he says does not belong in the Democrat Party. He was speaking directly about DAC. Hunt suggested on Thursday's episode of Politics War Room that they may complicate the political existential question of winning in November. Carville said, "I have the quote right here. I'll get to it. She has attacked interracial relationships and the American flag. Lady, I ain't in the same party as you. I'm sorry. I'm just not. And I actually do think it's time for Democrats to talk schism. I really do. Everyone's always, no, we're a coalition. We're a big tent. And there's just something I can't be in the same tent with. There's people I just can't be in the same tent with." Carville suggests that many of the recent far-left candidates do not actually like the Democrat Party, but are nonetheless running as Democrats. Well, and this is exactly what we were talking about with Melissa Del Rosa's statement, that they're parasites. They know they cannot win as a Democrat socialist, so they are taking over the Democrat Party. Let's negotiate in terms of a schism here. Maybe we can part under some kind of advantageous terms for both of us, but I'm done. And I'm not in that blanking political party. I'm totally comfortable in a political party that spends time questioning the policies of the government of Israel. In fact, I'm enthusiastic about it. I don't want to be in a political party that denies the right of the state of Israel to exist. That's just not, I just can't do that. I'm sorry, it's just not doable. They are a great gift to Donald Trump, Hunt replied. Certain people like Obama, but also some of the younger Democrats, and they said this is not us. He argued that if Democrats do win a sweeping victory in November, that group of crazies will be able to just sabotage Hakeem Jeffries every step of the way. While he said that AOC made some trouble for the Democrats in the beginning of her career, he argued that she eventually became a good member. However, Hunt warned, "I don't think this group has that potential." And Carville agreeing, say, "I don't either, and I think AOC is smart. I could be in the same party with her in many ways. I can't be in the same party with Miss Cavalier. Can't do it. Sorry." Now, ex-governor, you remember this gentleman, David Paterson. That was after the Spitzer scandal. Paterson took over for a short time before Cuomo. Former Governor David Paterson warned New York Democrats could face extinction if they don't thwart the socialist takeover. The warning from Paterson, who also served as the state's party chairman, comes days after a slate backed by mayors Ron Mamdani and the Democrat Socialists of America swept key congressional Democrat primary contests in nearly all state legislative seats. Quote, "It's definitely a message to the Democrat Party. We better get that message and turn it around before we become extinct." He noted that 32,790 Democrats voted to elect controversial socialist Daraliza Avila Cavalier, who ousted five-term incumbent Representative Andrino Espaillat in the 13th House District covering Harlem, Washington Heights, Inwood, and parts of the Bronx. That's a sliver of the voting population in that district. There are 700,000 people who live in that district, which means that she got about 5% of the people that live there to vote for her. I would suggest that within 2 years, a real organized campaign gets put together and she can take her 5% and go back to wherever she was before she ran the first time. Now, Paterson has not been shy in criticizing his party's left-leaning policies. He slammed Democrats in Albany for going too far when approving the controversial soft-on-crime cashless bail law, and ripped into former President Joe Biden for letting the migrant crisis spiral out of control by failing to police the border. Current state Democrat Party Chairman Jay Jacobs said Paterson and other critics are overreacting to the primary results. Everybody is overreacting. He called Paterson a friend. He said the DSA won races in very progressive districts in New York City, and that doesn't speak for the entire Democratic Party. Jacobs noted that state comptroller Tom DiNapoli easily won his primary. Why do we ignore that? Congressman Tom Suozzi hasn't suddenly become a socialist. All right, we're going to tell you what Bruce Blakeman had to say about this, but we're running just a tad bit late. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
New York State is putting nearly $60 million towards improving key roadways across the southern tier.
Many older homes are still at risk for exposing residents to high levels of lead.
The Nani Hood Parent Resource Center once again brought the community together for its annual Halloween parade.
Around the southern tier, Finger Lake stands out for its scenery and wine scene. This year's dry drought brought some positives to the crop. Lee Com Center is looking for fans to show up and show out.
I had to pack up all my things. I had to leave my home. And I never knew where I was going next. It felt like I never even had a say. But then you came along.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you. Learn how you can help at nationalcasagal.org.
We are the keepers of the wild, America's original and most invested conservationists. For more than 80 years, we've been committed to conserving wildlife and the natural landscapes that define our nation. From rugged alpine ridgelines to peaceful tall grass prairies, we've supported the conservation of more than 36 million acres of American wildlands. Our funding has led to cleaner water, fresher air, and improved wildlife habitat. From abundant fish and waterfowl populations to robust deer and elk herds, nothing is more important than maintaining wild spaces for adventurers to explore and wildlife to thrive. We are America's hunters and target shooters, stewards of the American outdoors.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your home and business security needs. We are back. Comment from a viewer. I wonder why we never hear what James Carville's wife thinks. Yes, married to Mary Madeline. I haven't seen her in a very long time. I know at one time that was kind of a hot topic because she, of course, Republican, which I did find out later that she switched her party to Libertarian, surprisingly enough, back in 2016, I think it's on. But her and James Carville would kind of go after each other politically on TV. But I haven't heard from Mary Madeline in a long, long time. She's still out there, but you're right. I think we hear more from James Carville because he's got his own podcast. That's probably the difference. So GOP gubernatorial candidate Bruce Blakeman, who's been on this program, blasted Governor Kathy Hochul for enabling Mayor Zohran Mamdani. And he raises a good point. Remember, she did endorse Mamdani. He called the pair dangerous, as he said New Yorkers should vote for him to restore sanity to the state. Quote, the only way to save this state is to support my campaign this year. Because left-wing lunatics, the Zohran Mamdani wing of the Democrat Party, these people hate America, Blakeman said during an interview on WABC radio. They are a danger to our state. They are a danger to our country, and they've got to be stopped. He lumped Hochul in with Mamdani, a proud member of the Democrat Socialist of America, whom he cozied up to during his 2025 campaign in what critics have blasted as a cynical political ploy to avoid facing a primary challenge during her re-election campaign this year. Blakeman said, as Winston Churchill said, communism, socialism, it's nothing more than shared misery. That is what we have now under Kathy Hochul and Zohran Mamdani. They want to make everybody miserable so they don't know the difference between being happy and being miserable. Blakeman's red alert came after Mamdani's slate of Democrat socialists and leftist candidates won, as I keep mentioning all morning long. Blakeman blasted New York's sky-high taxes, congestion pricing, and electric bills, which are 70% higher than the national average, and billions in spending on undocumented immigrants. Quote, I can do for New York State what I did for my county. We need policies that protect New Yorkers, not giving $8 billion to illegal migrants who haven't earned a thing. That's our taxpayer dollars that should be spent on New Yorkers. It's a disgrace. It will end on day one. Zohran Mamdani and Kathy Hochul just imposed a rent freeze. On the surface, if you're living in an apartment, that sounds like a good thing. The bad thing about it is that nobody is investing in affordable housing anymore in New York, Blakeman warned. Those who have units that are vacant, they're keeping them vacant because they can't afford to make capital improvements and repairs. We now have 80,000 vacant units in the city of New York. Landlords, they're going to give up. They're going to leave. Blakeman claimed Mamdani and Hochul would take everything under the umbrella of the new New York City Housing Authority. You're going to be living under the New York City Housing Authority, which is the biggest slumlord in the United States of America. That's what they want. They want to control your home and your housing. The Republican is still the clear underdog, Bruce Blakeman. A Siena College poll released last week had Hochul leading Blakeman by 20 points, 52-32, with less than 5 months until the midterm. The Hochul campaign claims Blakeman is out of the mainstream, saying, quote, while Governor Hochul is driving down costs for families, from delivering universal child care to putting inflation refund checks in pockets, Bruce Blakeman is busy catering to the far right, embracing January 6th architects and caving to Donald Trump instead of fighting for New York. The governor will work with anyone to make life more affordable. Blakeman's MAGA all the way, and proud of it. All right. Now, this Big Ten. Got a comment from a viewer saying, good morning, Frank. Well, good morning to you. Congratulations to viewer Mark on his trophy. Nice looking wheels. Yes, we announced it earlier. Mark made it out to the Hornby Bicentennial Celebration. He said he was going to, and he even won a trophy. So congratulations to Mark, and thank you for that comment, viewer. I do appreciate that. So this big tent idea. David Hersani says the next mayor of Washington, D.C. is likely to be a Marxist. In Los Angeles, there's far-left groups fighting for control. New York City has already fallen to a champion of third worldism. And for the first time in American history, a significant bloc of Congress will openly hate the country they represent. We aren't talking about anti-Americanism in an abstract or hyperbolic sense. The Zohran Mamdani slate that swept New York's Democrat Party primary this week is explicit in its aims to dismantle the republic. Members of Democrat Socialists of America want to abolish police, prison, and borders and seize the means of production, as future Congresswoman from New York's 13th Congressional District, DAC, once argued. The co-founder of the group that called for nothing short of the total collapse of the American empire with a goal to eradicate America and Western civilization, Avila Cavalier, doesn't deny she's a communist. And why would she? There's a temptation to dismiss and whitewash the rise of socialism. We shouldn't. Sure, the DSA is still constrained by the constitutional order, but isn't constrained by Democrats. Van Jones warned on CNN, the roof is collapsing on the Democrat Party establishment tonight. This is a battle between the establishment and this insurgency. What battle? The establishment has surrendered to the DSA hostile takeover on every front. We talked about this on Friday's broadcast. I think it was Friday, maybe Thursday. If you look at Governor Cuomo, he would give in to this far left because he didn't want a far left challenger. Governor Hochul, the same. The establishment has surrendered to the DSA's hostile takeover on every front. Establishment Democrats like Nancy Pelosi had the chance to sideline squad members when they first appeared. Yet the former speaker eventually coddled them, perched them in important committees, and appeared on magazine covers celebrating their rise. If Democrats were unwilling to sideline illiberal bigots like Representative Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib back then, what makes anyone think they'll stand up for the socialists now? Top Democrats virtually tripped over themselves to endorse Nazi SS tattoo man Graham Plantner in Maine. One of the things that makes the Democrat Party great, it's its big tent party, said New Jersey Senator Cory Booker, said of the socialists who explicitly demanded they overturn Article 1 of the Constitution. We need to stay that way, Booker said. Senator Chris Murphy said, choose candidates, not party leaders. And party leaders need to listen to what voters are telling us. And right now they are demanding our party be bolder. One supposes that if a person already supports abolishing the Electoral College and packing the Supreme Court, supporting the eradication of all checks and balances isn't much of a jump. It's not implausible that many more Democrats in urban areas will lose their seats to the well-funded socialist candidates, up to and including House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, and there's talks of ousting him in that leadership position. At the very least, Jeffries and others will be compelled to move even farther left to pacify the Democrat Socialists of America to save their seats. Considering the spinelessness of the establishment, we can expect Democrats to embrace a widening array of Marxist policy ideas. Some analysts point out that the primary voters for the Mamdani slate were largely high-earning young non-native New Yorkers, not the working class, immigrants, or rank-and-file voters. Marxists are most often over-credentialed bourgeoisie with savior complexes. On the other hand, all energy on the left is with the anti-American faction. According to Gallup, 66% of Democrats hold a positive view of socialism. The younger you are, the more you lean toward collectivism ideas. An Axios Generation Lab poll found 67% of college students hold a positive or neutral association with socialism. 67, compared to only 40% with capitalism. What do we expect after decades of cultural and academic attacks on free enterprise, liberty, and American history? The outlook among immigrants isn't much better. According to one poll, Mamdani won 62% of foreign-born voters in his mayoral race. Another poll found that he won 81% of the vote of people in New York City for fewer than 10 years. Mamdani won something like 90% of Muslim votes. When the socialists are importing third world ideas that appeal to unassimilated newcomers, one of the most popular being Jew hatred. The Mamdanis obsess over Israel. So often you'd think they were running on the Hamas slate in the Gaza Strip. There has always been radicalism on the American left, but Democrats didn't invite the Black Panthers or the Weather Underground into their party in the 1970s. In the 2020s, though, Democrats invited communists into their tent. Now the communists are taking over. I thought that was a really good point by David Hersani. Before we go to break, stay with us. We're moving fast this morning. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back.
This year, WYDC is bringing you 25 New York Mets games free over the air this spring and summer. No fees and no subscription services. Tune into WJKP 48.2 to watch the New York Mets this MLB season. Let's go Mets!
What better way to start or end every day than relaxing in your very own Hesselson's hot tub? Massage therapy, relaxation, stress reliever, pain management, soothing muscles, or just spending time with a loved one. Hot water therapy really does make every day better. Hesselson's has been a part of this great community for over 70 years, still being locally owned and operated. So make the drive to Hesselson's and start making your path to a better life today. And after 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Mess is so uplifting. You see how the community rallies around us, saying we're going to fight this thing with you, no matter how long it takes or what it takes.
I love the energy at Walk MS. It is community, it is family. I can ride that high for the rest of the year.
A cure is on the line for me.
A cure is on the line for all of us.
Hi, I'm meteorologist Brandon. Weather's a warm start to what will be a warm week. 89 today, mostly sunny, relatively light winds. Then overnight, we'll see mid-60s for low temperatures. Then for our Tuesday, this is where we have scattered showers and storms. Temperatures pushing into the 90s. We'll see more of that heat this week with upper 90s possible Wednesday and Thursday. Holding on to the heat as we head through 4th of July weekend, following
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Comment from Rick this morning saying, good morning, Frank. Good morning, Rick. So Iran strikes U.S. positions Saturday, and then Trump attacks Iranian positions near the Strait. 2 days, 2 attacks by both sides. I'm glad that much detail was built into the amateur's page-and-a-half peace deal. I need a forklift to haul all the papers home when I buy a new truck. Trump and his wizard son-in-law craft a 1.5-page peace deal with the most dangerous regime in the Middle East and wonder why it doesn't work. Build some detail into a peace plan, not a sloppy piece of paper. Amateurs. Iran struck military targets in Kuwait and Bahrain Sunday morning. Peace plan is working well. Great job, Trump. Israel's still blasting away at Hezbollah in Lebanon. As long as those two knuckleheads keep blasting away at each other, no peace plan will be adhered to. I hear all kinds of noise that peace talks are on track. Really? I hope Donald's 250th American anniversary celebration doesn't get ruined with all the hot weather on the 4th of July. The party in Washington is all about him anyway. Maybe he can go by himself. All I got, Trump must have been golfing. Let's have an awesome week. All right, leftist Democrats are being thrown under the bus, and socialists are in the driver's seat, according to Tom Del Barcro. Dan Goldman lost his re-election bid in New York. In the olden days, 20 years ago, such an outcome was inconceivable. In the modern Democrat Party, however, the rush to socialism knows no loyalty. No matter what yesterday's socialist or big government proponent did for the cause, that is not good enough for the current socialists, let alone tomorrow's. In history, the run-up of class warfare, high-tax redistribution policies we associate with socialism becomes a spiraling rush. Examples include the end of the Roman Republic and the end of the ancient Greek Athenian democracy. The same is true with the Democrat Party today. James Carville recently said the Democrat Party is not a left-wing party. Contrary to his spin, however, the Democrat Socialists of America have the momentum within the Democrat Party. 3 far-left mayors are defining the Democratic Party. Consider the election of Mayor Zohran Mamdani in New York in 2025, and now 3 of his adherents in those primaries. In Chicago, Mayor Brandon Johnson is to the left of his very liberal predecessor, Lori Lightfoot, who was chased out of office. In Los Angeles, Mayor Karen Bass, who underwent training in Castro's Cuba, campaigned down the stretch of her primary on providing government-funded teeth replacements for methamphetamine addicts. Post-primary, she is being challenged by a DSA candidate. Goldman's defeat demonstrates dramatically the main streets that are the Democrat Party primaries. The mean streets are the Democrat Party primaries these days. Goldman, of course, was the lead prosecutor for the Democrats' impeachment of President Trump back in 2019. Recall that the Russia debacle was the centerpiece of the Democrats' attack on Trump's first term. Goldman was dogged in that role, often with the truth being thrown aside. In 2020, Trump was not returning to the presidency in significant part by the fallout of his impeachment over the now debunked Russiagate. In 2022, Goldman was rewarded with a congressional seat in New York, where a once victorious New Yorker like him would have held a near lifetime seat. Once in Congress, Goldman remained a fierce attack dog for the Democrats. Such loyalty to the cause simply is not enough for the modern Socialist Democrat Party. Goldman, who is Jewish, lost to the Mamdani-endorsed Brad Lander, who is also Jewish but describes himself as a liberal Zionist. Goldman, of course, was the lead prosecutor for the Democrats' impeachment of President Trump in 2019, as I mentioned. Important Lander's website promptly features his socialist promise to tax obscene wealth. Alongside him is one of the Democrats' richest leftists, Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren. As a result, Goldman became yesterday's headline for the New Democrat Socialist. He is not alone in being cast aside. Consider the case of former President Joe Biden, who did everything his party demanded. He signed one of the biggest spending bills in history. The $1 trillion so-called Inflation Reduction Act was promoted by Democrats as lowering health care costs for Americans by extending the expanded Affordable Care Act subsidies, and the largest investment in climate action and clean energy in world history. Biden appointed many far-left judges and also satisfied the race-conscious wing of his party, appointing 63 black federal judges, the most of a presidency of any length. You would think the Democrats would be celebrating him because of all he did for the cause, but you would be wrong. This May of 2025, NBC headline, however, said, quote, "Can Democrats blame their problems all on Biden?" Today, they are reviling former First Lady Jill Biden's decision to write a book. Now consider Chuck Schumer. He defeated a Republican incumbent to take over one of New York's U.S. Senate seats. His re-election victories twice hit 70%. In 2016, he was unanimously elected Democrat leader, after securing big Democrat gains in the Senate in the 2006 and 2008 election as the chair of the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee. His voting record gives him a strong Democrat rating with the progressive left and an A rating. Are Democrats foursquare behind him? No. Importantly, Lander's website I jumped around here. In 2025, Politico named that the survey by the liberal firm Data for Progress, first shared with Politico, found that 55% of Democrat likely voters said they supported or leaned towards supporting AOC, while 36% backed or leaned toward backing Chuck Schumer. Why? Because he couldn't keep the government shutdown going, even though Democrats called it a Republican shutdown. As a result, we found that angry Democrats call on Schumer to resign after 8 vote to end shutdown. As for the 8 Senate Democrats who voted to end the government shutdown, quote, furious Democrats are set to train their fire far beyond the 8 Senate Democrats who cut a deal to end the shutdown, directing their frustration into defeating establishment candidates in primaries across the country. Those 8 included Illinois Senator Dick Durbin with a lifetime liberal voting record. The others are not as liberal as Schumer and may well be cast aside in the years ahead. In short, the current momentum within the Democrat Party is not the moderation some thoughtful Democrats of the Bill Clinton era desire. To the contrary, the modern Democrat Party's rush to socialism knows no loyalty to party regulars. They want socialism, and they demand it now. All right, there's the corning whistle. We got to take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here at WYDC TV. Big Fox.
Don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Watch news from the Twin Tiers and catch local events on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Looking for a meaningful day trip close to home? Visit the historic Elmira Prison Camp, one of the most significant Civil War sites in the North. Walk the grounds, stand where history happened, discover powerful stories of courage, sacrifice, and survival that shaped our nation. Whether you're a history enthusiast, a family looking to learn together, or simply exploring the Finger Lakes region, we offer an experience you won't forget. Plan your visit today at elmiracivilwar.org. Preserve, discover, remember.
Make this summer event. Drive home a Ram 1500 and save over $6,400. Plus, get 2.9% for 72 months or 4.9% for 84. Or save $9,000 on Ram 2500 Tradesman. And this comes with the best powertrain warranty in the business. 10 years, 100,000 miles. Or save over $7,400 on 3 remaining 25 Jeep Grand Cherokees. And just announced, go topless and save $7,400 on a 26 Jeep Wrangler. As always, get the highest trade-in values. Period. Chilson Wilcox. Selling cars a different way. The right way.
Only thing more American than apple pie and 4th of July is baseball. This year, WYDC is bringing you 25 New York Mets games free over the air this spring and summer. No fees and no subscription services. Tune into WJKP 48.2 to watch the New York Mets this MLB season.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Comment from a viewer. The time I have left on this earth is less than the time I have been here. So the attempts by the Democrats to reconstruct and destroy our Constitution and country, not to mention our democracy, means less to me than it should to those who will have to live in and survive with whatever outcome manifests. If the Republicans don't win and continue to win, thereby causing the demise of the Democrat Party, then I feel sorry for those that I will be leaving behind. Thank you very much. Miranda Devine said that Democrats are in a desperate need of a new leader as communism overruns their party, but all they have is Obama. Barack Obama has decided to take center stage in a public relations campaign to promote his so-called library. He's here, there, and everywhere, opining about everything under the sun except the only thing that matters, the disintegration of his party. Like Nero playing the fiddle while Rome burned, Obama is curiously detached from the disaster he helped create. Democrats desperately need a leader to rally around, but all they have is Obama. He is the only former Democrat president who is still sharp, charismatic, and dynamic enough to take up the mantle. Bill Clinton, while reasonably well-liked and not crazy despite his wife, has significant health problems and is in no shape to do more than make the occasional token appearance and help raise money. Clearly, Joe Biden, the only other living former Democrat president, can barely function in public, as was evident in his Saturday night performance at a fundraiser for the Maryland Democratic Party. Maybe it's because he can't rest unless he is going after the Trump monster still living in his head. That means Biden. He's even hired his old pool guy to fix the reflecting pool. Whoa, what a loser, Biden said of his predecessor turned successor. The audience clapped like seals because all the establishment wing of the party has by way of policy or aspiration is Trump derangement. So all eyes turn to Obama, whose God-given gifts still shine brightly as the savior who will lead them out of the wilderness of Democrat socialism, open borders, and rigged election, and back to the promised land of common sense policies and voter enthusiasm. But he has nothing. He is out and about promoting his $850 million Obama Presidential Center that squats on the shores of Lake Michigan and 19 acres of public parkland gifted to Obama by the city of Chicago. when his former chief of staff, Rahm Emanuel, was mayor. But what he's really promoting is himself. We don't have to get through all this, but they have no one to take over the mantle to get away from the socialism. Democrat socialism is sweeping the nations, and voters should be alarmed, said Eric Patterson. The Democrat socialist prescription is always the same: more government, more taxes, less freedom, less opportunity. There's a reason major corporations continue to exit California, New York, and Washington state for lands of opportunity such as Texas and Florida. Now, another major American city stands on the brink of so-called democratic socialism. Whatever the party label, Americans need leaders who believe in the American dream: individual liberty, opportunity, strong families, civil society, a vibrant private sector, and limited government. All right, we got to take a break, and then we are going to wrap up today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Get your last second comments in, and we'll be right back.
New York State is putting nearly $60 million towards improving key roadways across the southern tier.
Many older homes are still at risk for exposing residents to high levels of lead.
The Nani Hood Parent Resource Center once again brought the community together for its annual Halloween parade.
Around the southern tier, Finger Lake stands out for its scenery and wine scene. This year's dry drought brought some positives to the crop. LECOM Center is looking for fans to show up and show out.
This year, WYDC is bringing you 25 New York Mets games free over the air this spring and summer. No fees and no subscription services. Tune into WJKP 48.2 to watch the New York Mets this MLB season. Let's go Mets!
Give kids time. Just 5 minutes a day. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
Hi, I'm meteorologist Brandon. Weather's a warm start to what will be a warm week. 89 today, mostly sunny, relatively light winds. Then overnight, we'll see mid-60s for low temperatures. Then for our Tuesday, this is where we have scattered showers and storms. Temperatures pushing into the 90s. We'll see more of that heat this week with upper 90s possible Wednesday and Thursday. Holding on to the heat as we head through 4th of July weekend, following a
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Did you realize, as we talk about these elections, we talk about the midterms, George Soros and his son Alex Soros have funneled a staggering $103 million into the midterms so far. He's on track to shatter spending records. Again, George Soros and his son Alex spent a staggering $102.8 million in the midterm election cycle, making the family chief architects of the party's seismic shift towards the radical left. Wow. Now, Joe Biden, as was mentioned, had a little bit of trouble at that fundraiser. He was back on stage at a Democrat Party gala and of course he used it as an opportunity to attack Trump. But he needed a little help figuring out just how to exit. He ripped Trump for the deliberate destruction of NATO, and hammered Trump's White House ballroom as a vanity project. At his speech's conclusion, Biden delivered a familiar refrain about the nation's ability to overcome challenges, then sought to assist to find out which way for him to leave the stage. He turned aside, seeking guidance, and pointed in two different directions to ascertain the best route. Once he had it sorted out, he walked away from the stage with his back to the audience. Doug Schoen says 2 years after Biden's disastrous debate, Democrats are still dealing with the fallout. Wow, it's hard to believe that it was 2 years ago. Democrats have wished to put that disastrous night behind them, but for a variety of reasons, they are unable to do so. Even now, barely a month can go by without the Democrats reminding us of the challenges Biden and Democrats face, culminating in Biden's withdrawal from the race. Ultimately, viewed through these lenses, Joe Biden's biggest legacy may not just be handing Donald Trump a second term. Rather, it may be the ongoing polarization and division within the Democrat Party that may allow Republicans, notwithstanding Trump's low ratings and his own baggage, to avoid losing one or both chambers of Congress. Now, I wanted to, do I have time for this? Where was it? Assemblyman Phil Palmisano released a statement about the recent assault on staff at the Elmira Correctional Facility. According to New York State Correction Officer and Police Benevolent Association, a nurse and 3 other staff members sustained injuries while delivering medication to an incarcerated individual. The assault resulted in the nurse sustaining a fractured shoulder. Assemblyman Phil Palmisano saying, quote, "The dangerous assaults happening on staff are disgusting. Our correctional and civilian staff put their safety at risk every day they step inside our correctional facilities. Under one-party Democrat control, assaults are rising because of failed and dangerous policies. In fact, in the first 3 years of HALT, inmate-on-inmate assaults rose by 169%. Assaults on staff rose by 76%, and the amount of contraband entering prisons rose by 32%. HALT has been an utter failure since it was implemented. We continue to see more and more stories like this every week of staff being attacked and hurt by dangerous inmates. The failed policies like HALT and Albany Democrats continue to advance have created a dangerous and violent powder keg environment inside the walls of our correctional facilities. It is long past due for the governor and legislature to act. My Assembly and Senate Republican colleagues and I remain steadfast in our belief that the HALT Act should be replaced. But because Democrats don't seem to have the political will to do so, it should at least be amended to provide a safer environment for staff and for other inmates. I want everyone who works inside our correction facility to know how much I appreciate all they do for us, and that I will always have their backs and will continue to advocate for them in Albany. And we learned, it is being reported that New York prisons are sounding the alarm. Drones are being used to drop packages stuffed with cell phones, drugs, and weapons into upstate correctional facilities. A security threat that Governor Hochul recently moved to address with new legislation. The latest incidents occurred at Wallkill and Sing Sing prisons, where corrections officers recovered contraband that had been flown into prison grounds during overnight drone flights. Wow. Officers recovered cell phones, charging cables, SIM cards, 15 vacuum-sealed bags of marijuana, and bags containing unidentified pills, according to the release. Well, I think that is just about it. So just something to keep in mind. By the way, according to Political Fact, New Yorkers with a second home can choose where they want to vote. Really? Can New Yorkers with 2 homes really choose where to cast their ballot? A group called Move Indigo wants New York Democrat voters who have second homes to vote where their second homes are located if those properties are in swing districts. New York state law is clear. Citizens with dual residence have the right to choose where they want to vote. They do not have to vote where they maintain their primary residence. Wow. Mark writes in, great show today. Have a great day. Thank you, Mark. You too. Again, congratulations on your trophy at the Hornby Bicentennial. Well, that does it for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Thank you for all the comments. Thank you for all the discussion. We will be back tomorrow morning starting at 6 a.m. with Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV. Big Fox, we'll talk to you tomorrow morning. I look forward to it already.
This was our last chance to show who our son was. I can't say enough about pre-planning. When you are in those moments, you are not thinking clearly.
We showed up for the remembrance, and we walked in and we just, wow.
It was arranged perfectly. Yeah. I certainly could not have done that in that moment. So to have those pre-conversations, it's really important.
Visit carpentersphillipsflint.com to learn more about our family-owned funeral homes.